Welcome to the Rugby Bits podcast. We're here after a fabulous weekend of rugby. We have a record win for the Springboks. We have Rugby World Cup quarterfinals where the Springbok women's team did us proud. The game of the year candidate between France and Ireland. We have the Argentina Australia game. We have so much rugby to go through. So there's going to be a lot to discuss here. I'm here with Shaun today. And we're going to start with the big record win for the Springboks in Wellington against the All Blacks. So this is officially the biggest loss the All Blacks have had, 43 points to 10. Shaun, yeah, I mean, it's crazy what difference that a week makes. And I think just on a broader scale, it's a wild rugby championship. It feels like every team has had at least one like 10 out of 10 performance and at least one like 5 or like 2 out of 10 performance.
Yeah, yes, hi. You're 100% right. It's such a weird one. And the irony is it's like, don't they change the system or isn't there no rugby championship next year? Like
Pretty
that's
much.
the whole, yeah, like it's the year before it kind of ends sort of prematurely. But as much as teams have put together world-class performances, every single one of these teams are beatable by a a country in the top five, you feel. Like they can have an off day that'll cost them, where previously there were sides that if they had an off day, they still kind of eked out a win, or they didn't play as badly that it made you ask like crazy questions 11 o'clock at night around the fire after a couple of bottles of brandy. So yeah, it's interesting. It shows that there is a lot of potential still. Like there's still a lot of growth that a lot of sides can have, specifically the rugby championship sides, leading into the next World Cup, which is pretty scary for a lot of people because the truth is every test side like worth their weight in salt is capable of putting in a really, really good performance. It's the consistency that matters. And once sides start being consistent, like, yeah, Argentina starting their World Cup run 2 years out is unheard of for us.
Yeah.
Australia are single-handedly making rugby union a thing back in the country ahead of them hosting two World Cups. It's mad. New Zealand are there and thereabouts. I don't think we can call them the All Blacks again yet or not. I think it's just New Zealand for now. They're in a bit of turmoil, and Argentina are very quickly becoming a scary place to tour. I know, like England in June, July. Was it June, July? Sure, I don't even know what month we're in. They had a couple of like big wins. England are on the up. Ireland are pretty handy. Scotland can cause an upset. We're potentially in for an absolute cracking World Cup, and considering how good 2023 was, that's quite something.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is probably the first rugby championship since maybe the like that early 2000s time with like Jake White, when it felt like, yeah, I think those like first 2 years, it felt like the Springboks, New Zealand, Australia were all kind of at the same place and all pretty much good. And then obviously after that, it was for about 15 years or most of 15 years was the All Blacks just kicking everyone's asses. Springboks have had 1 or 2 years here and there. But this is like the first in like a long time, especially since the all four teams were in the competition where all four teams seem to be able to beat each other. So we'll have to see. I mean, it literally might be a rugby championship where the team that wins it wins 50% of their games, which is unheard of.
And also going into the final round, there are two sides that can still win it. So no matter what happens in the second last round, when you go into the final round, there will still be two sides that could win it, possibly three. So
Possibly four, even. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
like depending on bonus points. And I want to ask you about bonus points a bit later because I think there's still some debate about whether Australia has 12 or 11 points. But it really could be like everyone is like close enough or not close enough. So yeah, there's a lot to look forward to there. But yeah, sure. Let's start with the game in Wellington. I mean, it started normal enough, like for Bok or Black game. Like Springbok started quite hot. I mean, much better than they did last week. The All Blacks scored a really good try with Leroy Carter. Springboks came back in, and I mean, it was 10-7 at halftime. And I think the biggest worry, which maybe helped us, was all the injuries that happened in the first half. So in the first half, the Springboks were, it kind of felt like the Springboks were kind of also trying to play like a more of an open game. And New Zealand were also trying to play an open game. New Zealand were really trying to play touchline to touchline and stress the Springbok defense, which, I mean, we'll talk about maybe whether that was the right approach or not. But I kind of think the injuries helped us. So Lodiaga goes off early. We have Arya Snyman. Now we have a prop enforcer lock. And Snyman had a really good game. And then Sasha, Feinberg, Gomez Zulu, and Apelele Fassi get injured in the middle of the first half. And then with Libok, and probably more so with Esterhazen, it just gave our backline, I think, a lot more structure. And I think that's part of the reason why it worked in the second half. But yeah, in the first half, what did you see? Like, it kind of felt like it it felt like sorry, like it was sort of what we expected. Like the Springboks have some good flashes and like some individuals are doing some good things, but especially in the back line, it's still a very inexperienced team and like combinations haven't played with each other. So there were maybe a few defensive mistakes from Moody and maybe passes weren't really coming together. So it it wasn't like too negative, even though the Boks were behind. Yeah, it felt like, okay, like this is a possible performance considering the circumstances.
Yeah, that first half, it didn't look fantastic, but it was definitely an improvement.
Yeah,
And but I was still like left worrying about, do the All Blacks still have any juice left in the tank? Because they were always going to. It's a massive rivalry. We've seen how the Springboks have played the All Blacks in the past when the All Blacks have dominated. More often than not, there's been some big losses, but more often than not, it's competitive for a while. And they're good enough, and there's enough in the game that if you let the opposition stay in with the shot, they're going to kind of grow on that. I thought that we improved, but didn't like it's weird. We start the game, I don't know if you've noticed, but we kind of start the game by being super expansive, almost straight off the bat. Like
yeah,
there'll be a good backline move, or they send hands and they do something, and you're like, "Poof, this is if this is how it's going to go for 80 minutes, there's going to be trouble." And then they kind of don't score, or they nothing comes of it, and then they go into their shell, and then they almost look like they're in between two things. So it was a bit shaky. The All Blacks were properly up for it. They were niggling and they were kind of in and messing around with everything, which is really what they needed to do if they were going to kind of hold back the backlash. Yeah, what happened in the second half is wild though. But I agree with you. I think the like even the first 60 minutes. I mean, the game was like up in the air for the first 60 minutes. It was in the last 20 minutes that we really put the hammer down and the All Blacks fell apart. Like the damn wall broke and they were just like, we can't keep doing this. And we've seen this so many times in the past with many sides. Ireland were great at it. And the Springboks are great at it. They just keep pressurizing you. It's basically like a python, you just get constricted and you eventually like you can't take any more breath and you die.
yeah.
And that's when sides go and dominate you. But it didn't look like the All Blacks were going to go away. It looked like it was going to be a tight one for a lot longer, and they just gave up.
Yeah. I guess there were like three turning points, I think, in this game where I think it's almost settled the result. So obviously the Colby intercept. I think if Colby misses that, that's 7 points to New Zealand. Like that was essentially a 14-point swing. Then after the Willemse tried was what, 24-10 at that stage. There was I think they got that penalty. Sorry, I think just before that, I think before the Willemse tried, there was that attack that New Zealand had where basically it was a 2-on-1 with Jordan and I think Mackenzie. And I'm not sure what happened and why Jordan's pass didn't get to hand, but then that was an opportunity wasted. That also felt like it should have been a
Massive,
scrum. And then the third one,
massive error.
yeah, the third one then was the banking penalty they conceded in the 22. And it was still 24-10 at that stage. So even if New Zealand scores one of them, it's 24-17. I think that the last few minutes of the game becomes like a tight, you know, one score in it type of victory maybe for the Boks. But then they didn't take those opportunities. And I think the big difference, and I want to hear what you think, because I know you haven't watched the game that we don't talk about at Ellis Park, but it felt like the big difference between those last three games and now is we kind of carried on from how we played in the first 20 minutes of that Ellis Park game, where it was all the things were coming together in terms of our strengths, and we were adding the attack that was able to capitalize on it. But basically, the main summary is Boks had 12 entries into the 22, and they scored, let me just get the number here, 3.3 points per 22 entries. So if a team does that, they put themselves in a good position. I mean, if you get 10 entries, that's a lot. But then if you score 3.3 per entry, that is also really, really good. So it felt like where the Springboks were not able to do that in Ellis Park, in Cape Town, in the first test in Eden Park, the attack was actually now getting over the line.
We've got to give the coaches and the players their flowers because the underlying issue we've been speaking about for a while is converting chances. That has really been something that everyone can look at and go, we're doing all these things, but we're not finishing. So, driving's for show, putting's for dough. And that's huge. I mean, we saw last week it was diabolical. The numbers were sad. Listen, if at halftime our numbers were poor, we were at 1.7 points per 22
Yeah,
entry at halftime, which is kind of exactly the same thing that happened the week before. So we weren't even converting then. Like the last 20 minutes, maybe had that papered over the cracks or did it click? I don't know. We've got to wait until the next game because those numbers were not looking good with even 19 minutes left in the game. They weren't looking fantastic. But that is also, it's in our DNA. Like that has become our thing is we just keep the pressure on. And the biggest thing for me is like I think New Zealand did give up because it's like in this game with a side that's really scrambling a lot, when they do something good and they score a try, it's like a real jab of adrenaline into their body and they get built up. But if they do put all that effort in and they don't score a try or get that jab of adrenaline, like you can just see it the levels dropping lower and lower and they never recover from that. And so that's like both things, and both of them are it's a Springbok thing. Like I know the All Blacks really fell off, but that's because of what we did, chasing lost score causes and stopping, like putting them under pressure, them making silly mistakes, and then we went and converted that into points. Like so something that was tangible for us as opposed to something that was just really good D.
yeah. And yeah, I think that's a very good point. And I think we kind of saw the other side of that in Ellis Park. Like, you're putting this effort, the game plan seems to be working, we're getting into the 22, we're making the plays, but then we're not getting the points. And at some point, where now the other team seems to be just scoring every time they get the ball, like that just, yeah, seeps away at, energy and confidence and encouragement. And all of a sudden, now you've conceded 40 points where you probably should have only conceded 20. So, yeah, there's a lot to take out of this game. I think just in terms of approach, like we said, the first half and the first 20 minutes especially did feel like it was wide and sort of it felt like it was almost like a basketball game for both teams. And it felt like I was like, this is so weird. It feels like we're probably more suited to this than the All Blacks. I mean, we've talked about it, I think, the last few weeks that it does seem like the All Blacks have those like individual talents in order for like them to sort of capitalize on those one-on-ones and or the space that you create or to sort of make that clean break or whatever the case is. But then in the second half, it just felt like a bit more of like it felt like a sort of like traditional bot game plus. So use the scrum to get scrum penalties. Use the line out to have a rolling maul. Oh, welcome back, rolling maul. It was nice to have you again.
It's been
Um,
a while. It's
it's
been a
been a
long,
long
long
time.
time. Like, welcome back from leave. Like, what happened?
Yeah, we look, you know what? You needed your leave. It's all good. I mean, the line out was still not perfect, but it was at least a lot more manageable. Like we could launch things from the line out. And then the kicking game was, I mean, I don't even think there was a big chunk of the game where I think Reinach wasn't really kicking too well. But then there was that sort of middle of the second half where Reinach was just nailing it. And it seemed like they were really targeting Leroy Carter. and Ethan Hooker sort of switched wings, and he was just having a ball of a time, just getting those kicks and able to now just get into the New Zealand half, as easily as possible. They get the ball from the kicks, they get the ball maybe from penalties and get into New Zealand half. And then basically once they go into New Zealand half, they were able to launch the attacks, and it pretty much felt like every time they got the ball, they scored. So I guess that's now the question. I mean, we'll talk about individual players in a moment, but like in terms of approach, I think this win is good in one way, but I think it sort of throws questions at least to the like to us as fans, like, okay, is this now a game plan? Is this sort of the game plan now? And now obviously we'll talk about selections in a moment, but I kind of like this. Like I think this is the way that the Springboks should play, is use obviously the traditional strengths that the Springboks have. And maybe, these traditional strengths aren't going to be as um prominent in certain games. Like you maybe not going to be able to dominate a scrum like you did in this week. But use that. You have a good kick chase game. You can sort of get those turnovers and force mistakes, and then just be able to add that spark in attack that enables, those tries from Esterhazen and from Quagga and from Damian Willemse as well. Like it felt like a good marriage of the sort of the if you have the two camps in South African rugby right now of Tony ball and sort of more traditional ball, it felt like this is sort of the nice sort of marriage of the two.
Yes. Our game is evolving. And I can't remember if it was something that a fan or podcast said, or Russie mentioned it, where he spoke more about the Springboks evolving and being a little bit more expansive. I think it's
Yeah.
also clear that that is a plan when you look at the coaching staff they've brought in, and the players that we've got. So is that like the evolution of rugby, or is that the evolution of the Springbok game with the players we had? Because Russie really does, like, he does look quite deep into things. Is he evolving the game because these are the players we are coming through? I don't know, but it is changing. There are a couple things that, and I know we're going to touch on players later, I think that are absolute foundations, and that is we need a big, hard carrying eight, and we need a big, hard carrying 12. So Willemse does have the ability from getting to the same space as Esthuizen and Zelendi does. He does it slightly different, but we can chat about where his best space is, and we'll never get an answer, I don't think, for a while. But those two things are really vital to what we need. I'm also starting to see the value in having a really big abrasive 13. The one thing about Moody is I thought he did so much of stuff that doesn't require talent. Like it wasn't a super skillful space, and we saw it last week as well. Like he just really chases hard. He tries to recover quickly. He rucks. He does all that. And people give Jesse Kriel a lot of shit, but what they forget about is Lukhanyo is very physical at the breakdown. Him and Damian Delendi were making steals or slowing ball down all the time. Jesse does it, and now Moody does it. And if we see Hooker in the midfield, whether it's 12 or 13, he's going to do it too. So there's that whole thing. England have put Ben Earl in the midfield. Tizano, was it, went into the midfield for Australia. There's something happening there. There's an evolution happening there in the global game, and it's about like sewing up that space, because that space is, you can get exposed there, but you can also really manipulate a side by flooding the breakdown. Whether you're on defense or attack, you can manage them quite well, because they have to scramble to plug gaps or to counter ruck or whatever the case may be. So I think that is it. There are some certain things that'll stay the same, but without a shadow of a doubt, we have the talent. When the guys play well, everyone's got a lot of feel-good vibes. You start looking at the depth chart, and you start looking at the different back three combos we've had this year. Not all have worked, but I don't think they haven't worked in a manner that you take them off as an option. I
Yeah.
think every single back three combo we've seen this year is a viable option moving forward, whether it's fitness or game plan or whatever, or just form. So yeah, it's interesting. On Ergier Snyman, you spoke about him coming in and being that four. I was super impressed with him.
Mm,
He doesn't fill that role for me naturally. He plays a different style. Perhaps I've kind of been drawn in too much into him always coming off the bench and making that sort of an impact. So I'm thinking that he can't be as tight. But that was a big thing, and it was something that bothered me leading into this test match, having two fives there, and unfortunately, we lost Lut. But I thought Achia was brilliant, and Achia has changed my opinion in that he potentially could start more games moving forward.
yeah. So I think let's start with, I think the first player you mentioned was Jasper Wiese and just having that proper number eight. Like, I mean, I think there was many players that put their hand up for man of the match. I think with Jasper though, it just sets the table. Like he is sort of the foundation for everything else. Like, okay, if we're gonna play a wide game, we can now because we have Jasper Wiese that can sort of go through the guts, draw players in, and then create space. If we're gonna be tight, Jasper has no problem with that. He can be that sort of workhorse and getting those carries and going over the advantage line. So he beat the second most defenders, or six defenders beaten. I think he had the most carries in the game. Yes, him tied with Willemse. He had a turnover as well in defense. Like, geez, it was just good having a proper number eight. Like, I'm a big fan of Khaleesi at eight. I think though it just takes away from the balance because we don't necessarily have like we need a different type of sixth in from Starden, but and we don't necessarily have that in the
Bingo.
in the storage right now. But with Visa at eight, it's just like, oh, okay, this kind of makes sense. And it just sort of emphasizes importance that, dude, can you please not get suspended? Because clearly this team plays a lot better when you're available.
Yeah, you've nailed it in terms of having Khaleesi at eight. I think there's an opportunity for him to play there in test match rugby moving forward, but it really, really hinges on who we have at six and seven. Even at four, it's pretty big because it can work, but we can't do it with that setup. We have to change it. The other thing that is important to know is that the New Zealand side kicked on Jasper Wiese every single time at a restart. They wanted to take him out of the picture, like running in with a head of steam, off the next phase. And that was intentional. Like they really wanted to take him out the game because of the impact that he had. He hardly took a step backwards. He's a great diesel engine, but he's a little bit of a turbo diesel. Like he's not like your old school diesel, which, really trucks forward in second gear. He's got a third and a fourth if need be. And what it does do is it really opens up things for Troki moving forward. I think he covers that good space. We've got a number of pretty big, tight playing eights that have got some skills. Um, Very interesting for me is Cameron Honeycomb, how we're going to manage that space because he's quite different, but he does have the ability to play tight and loose. But I think loose is more natural, and obviously Evan Roos is there. So we've got the options. I think perhaps with Visa's suspension, and with the injuries that happened, and they chose not to take a big eight, perhaps just to try things out, or they figured Jean-Luc would be fit and he wasn't, so they just kind of plugged the gap. But yeah, Visser was vital, and what I love about it is what he did and how he did it is exactly the same as he does all the time. Jasper Visser's a 7.5, almost 8 out of 10 every game, maybe 7.5 every game. Like
Yeah,
that's what he does. And often people overlook it and they ignore it because it's the same old thing in so much rugby, but you only miss it when it's gone.
yeah,
And it was gone and we brought it back and you're like, whoa, okay, well played. We understand now. Let's set our platform around this because everything was working. We had a big 12, we had a proper hard carrying eight, the loose trio, obviously a lot more comfortable. But our loose trio, is that not the highest or second highest loose trio starting for the Springboks. If they're in the
I
top
think it's
three or
younger.
five, like they've played together a lot, so everyone's more comfortable, like it changes a lot. So yeah, it was so good to see him back, and especially he came back and he was that was his I'm sorry game, and I'm quite happy with it.
Yeah. No, I apology accepted, Jasper. Well done. Like you really sort of added that. And look, I think it helped that obviously the forwards, even though there's a lot of changes at the backs, I think it helped that the forwards were more or less, you know, combinations that have played with each other quite a lot and know each other quite well. So they could sort of set that table. And then just going to the backs, I think the second and obviously the player of the match was Damian Willemse. And there's so much to go into here because in some ways, it just showed, I think you mentioned now, it just showed what he can be at 12 and why he is really a legit option at 12. And even though he does things differently, but just his footwork means he can get over the advantage line just almost as well as Dialendian and Esthuizen. But a Willemse that's flying, even if he's now at 15 and he's a secondary playmaker, like it helps the backline a lot. Like you know, we've obviously wanted that from we've been having that with Leroux, and he's not necessarily in the same. He doesn't do it the same way as Leroux, but he helps a lot, and he's a good sort of second playmaker. And maybe Fassi isn't necessarily the same playmaker, so he's able to do that, but then he brings a physicality as well. And obviously, just the try that he took was really good, and he was great defensively. He was just. It felt like this was Damian Willemse just coming back into that 2023 like what early 2024 form where it was like, oh, this guy's looking to be one of the best players in the world. And obviously he's been injured and he's taken a lot of time to sort of get back into it. And yeah, I mean, I think you kind of were mentioning it just before that. When we're just discussing it now, is there's so many. It's a great performance, but also it brings so many questions as to okay, we have this guy, we want him to play probably as many minutes as possible. He's kind of made himself, at least on form right now, almost a non-negotiable in a Springbok 23. But where do you play this guy? What are the consequences and who does he fit into? And I guess almost as a wider point, I think now the question for the Springboks isn't necessarily like, I think this is kind of the game plan. Maybe you can sort of be like, okay, we'll turn up the notch of attack more here, or be a bit more tight. It's raining. We'll sort of be a bit more tight and sort of one pass ball in this game. But I think now it's about combinations. So, yes, maybe it's not about all of the oldies must go away and these new chaps must play every week now, but it's now, okay, maybe DLND works well with Moody better than he works with Kriel. Or maybe Willemse at fullback works better with Sasha than it does with Pollard or with Libok, whatever the case is. And so it's the depth, but now it's like sort of matching these things because of form and age and injuries and all that sort of stuff. I don't think there'll be a set 23 now until the World Cup. It'll just be like, okay, Peter Steph is not out for 6 weeks. He can actually play seven now. Or Etzebeth doesn't need a rest and doesn't have like old man injury. So we can now play him instead of Achia Snyman. So, but then back to Willemse, it was sort of such a great all-round performance that shows what he can do and why he's such an exciting talent for the Boks.
Willemse's caused more headaches than anything else because it's almost like we need to play 30 minutes of test rugby, have 10 minutes with him at 10, 10 with him at 12, 10 with him at 15, and then we kind of figure out, okay, cool, he's in a 15 mood today. So let's readjust the back line. Because I do feel that he has those moments when he's in a 12 mood is maybe the best way of putting it. Um, I do, however, think moving forward, it's 12 or 15. I don't think 10 is going to be an end game emergency situation. I don't think we need to really look at having him covering 10 as a second choice or a first choice. And that's purely because we've got enough players, enough cover all over the show. Let him play at 15 and slot in at 10, or let him play at 12 and set platforms or whatever he does. So I think 12 and 15 is it. Um, but what a game. Damian Willemse, as much as Jasper Wiese was an I'm sorry game, Damian Willemse was shit, I missed you guys game. Like it was it was quite something. Like he's been gone a while, but there are very few players in the world that come back to Test rugby and do that after being off for so long. Um, and that was quite a statement that he made. We've got crazy options, specifically in the back line. I think if you got about 15 people to name a starting and a bench pack, we would on average nail it. I
Yeah.
think with the back line, we're in trouble. And you're right. It's right. Sasha at 10. Okay, cool. We definitely have to play him with Fussy at 15 because of X, Y, and Z. And okay, so Sasha is going to be played 23. Awesome. That means we have to manage this moving forward, and so starts. Same with Marnie, same with Andre, same with both the Damians. Like we are in a very interesting space. The thing is they take a couple games to come right. We'll start a combo, and very often they revisit it. Like we start something and we're like, cool, this was our game plan, or this is our combination, it didn't work. Boop, take it away, work on it, bring it back. And the one thing that I will say is that the Springboks generally, when they try something and if it doesn't go according to plan, because I really do feel Rusty's a real touchy-feely guy. Like he really needs to see it in action in a test match. It's got to be live because live is the best way to figure it out. Because A, you're going against a team that is basically problem solving on the fly for real life. Like it's not, it's not a dry run in training. And then he takes it away. But the good thing is they do something like that and they generally bring it back the next time and it works. Like
Yeah.
there are little tweaks. You're a little bit ahead of the runner, or you're too far back, or we probably need cover on this side. So you've got to just come back slow, or you've got to close that gap. So yeah, we'll see a couple of options moving forward, and everyone just needs to be prepared for the fact that Sasha's not going to start every game. Damian's not going to start every game. We're going to try different options. We're going to put guys in different positions. Like, we're not in a space where a guy doesn't play, he's dropped. We're in a space where a guy doesn't play because we're looking at something else and we're trying to make the squad better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think now, especially, I kind of, I mean, I think Cooks and I talked about it on Monday. I still think this team would have been different. And I think there was a bit of Rusty being like, I think this team could win on Saturday, but if it doesn't, it doesn't type of thing. And this is not necessarily maybe the best fifth 23 we can pick, but let's just see what happens. And maybe these guys can sort of closer to the mark of how we want to play. And I think that was also a big victory is this wasn't like even for someone like Libok, this wasn't him doing long passes and cross kicks and all that sort of stuff. This was him playing a pretty like calm, not calm, but um like a sort of settled 10 type of game. He kicked, I think, the second most in the game, and those weren't all like chip kicks and cross kicks and kicks behind his head and all that sort of stuff. It was just he played a normal 10 game. Obviously, his goal kicking is now not as much of a problem anymore. And then when the opportunity was there, he was able to capitalize, and I think he got one try assist from it. So I think that was good that he could play that type of game. That Moody sort of grew into being a 13 that was stopping attacks because I think earlier in the game, I mean, we even talked about it in our group, earlier in the game, it did feel like the All Blacks were targeting him and getting past him, just him having to sort of, it seemed like they were throwing two or three options and he had to choose one, and obviously they would just pass to the second person. Um, so those things are good. I mean, Hooker, I think he was a bit quiet, but then he just grew massively into the game. And I mean, big shout out to him because yeah, I wasn't sure about him as a international level wing, but goodness gracious, like obviously the work rate and the desire, and I mean, he's obviously not slow. So we saw with that one break where he was able to make like basically 50 meters by himself. So that's not a bad option to have as maybe your fifth or sixth choice option wing. So like I think it was good that it wasn't necessarily just like, okay, we're gonna play like John Dobson type Stormers type of rugby. Everyone sort of played within some level of a structure, especially in the second half, and they still delivered. So that's I think, a big feather to the cap of especially those younger players.
Yeah. Mani impressed me. And it's because of everything you said. It was not the perception of Mani is that he's just going to go wild, throw skip passes, and just do some crazy shit. And he's shown many times, like if you go back to when the Stormers won the URC and you watched how he played, he was playing like he was managing games well, and he's always had that. It's just you're seeing highlights of some crazy no look kick pass, and then that's kind of what happens. Add to the fact that he had some issues off the tee, and then the perception is you're just a runner. Um, Ironically, Moni's passes, two of them I remember distinctly, were not great.
Yeah, even the pass to
Which
Willemse,
was that too? That kind of looked like it was going to
somewhere else.
Williams, and then he it kind of had to he stopped halfway through. You know that like that indecision, like am I going short or long? So I'm just put it in the middle, and so he's kind of I think Willemse has come in because Willemse came in at gas, and I think he was so late on it that he tried to pull a little bit back, and Willemse's skills were incredible. Listen, Willemse's line there, if that ball goes to Williams, we still score because he sucked in two players. Two players checked on him very, very quickly. Um, so yeah, and there were a couple things like that naturally are his strength that didn't do so well. So yeah, I'm happy with it. Like I'm happy with his performance. Again, he's just gone and said, I belong here. And Rassie, as the whole way through, always said, you're staying. And
Yeah.
that's what's happening. So we have four test tens in Pollard, Sasha, Marnie, and Willemse.
Yeah.
Like
Okay, but I hear your point. I hear your point.
he's
Yes.
played test 10, and if he had to start a test match at 10 because we had three injuries, would you worry? Not
I guess
really.
not. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. You reckon like, cool, no, we can get by. So like that's pretty wild. And Vili, who I mean, he's a number five because he shouts so much, so he has to be an option. But we've got some great shots there, and almost all of them, barring our first two, are playing multiple positions. So we're in a good space, and I'm happy. We've
Yeah.
got we've got that. The one thing that we are doing definitely is we trying to get Pollard to play a more expansive game. So we're trying to make Pollard play like our other 310s or our other 210s with more expansive stuff, which is something that he's working on. But then he adds like, swings and roundabouts it's massive in the Springbok setup at the moment. Like where you're losing in the swings, you're gaining on the roundabouts, in whichever way you look at it.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I think even with Lebok's game, just to add some numbers to that, he had 15 passes but 10 kicks. So it's not he's running with the ball. He literally had only one carry as well. No, three carries for 2 meters. So it's not like he was doing like maybe the free reign that he gets in Cape Town in the last
They
like 6 months.
they wrapped him up, eh?
Yeah.
Because generally, when he carries, generally it's because there's a gap and he's pretty quick off the mark, so he does
Yeah.
do something. So
Yeah.
they were definitely trying to wrap him up big time. I think they
Yeah.
were also just shitting themselves because Esterhazy was running down that channel like a beast.
Yeah. But I think it's not even like he was I don't think he was even looking for it. It was just like, look, the
No,
talent's outside, and because of all the momentum of the kick chase, the scrum penalties, we had so many, I think we had more than 100 more post contact meters than New Zealand did. So you're getting over the advantage line. Everything is becoming easy. You're playing downhill. There's no need for Mani to, I mean, and like you said, he's not like that player that will try to do things himself. I think that's more of a Sasha thing than a Mani thing, to be honest. And he was like, okay, cool. How about I pass to one of the most unstoppable 12s in the world? Great. How about I pass to
mm.
this guy that can step anyone in a phone booth? Great. How about I get the ball to Colby or to Williams, who's really fast? Like it all worked out so well. Um,
It was the more we talk about it, the more I realize it was probably one of his most mature performances at 10,
yeah,
and the most exciting part about it was he didn't force anything. Like
yeah,
everything happened, as you say, naturally. Oh,
yeah,
I don't need to do anything. Everyone else is doing it. I'm just going to be the pivot. I
yeah.
don't
Even
I
the
don't need to be
cross,
front and center.
yeah, even the cross kick to Peter Steph to Toy, like the option was there. He didn't have to push anything. There was momentum. Not like in the Ellis Park game where you could see obviously the team was panicking, and then he was trying to sort of pull out, you know, people usually say like you try to score 20 points in one play. That was kind of like what was happening, I think, to the Boks in that game. But in this second half, they're like, okay, cool, the opportunity's there. We have advantage. We have the wind behind our sails. Here's the opportunity, let's take it. I think the other sort of players to sort of shout out is Grant Williams did a really good job at wing. Yeah, I mean it's insane that he's able to do that. I mean, he pretty much stopped a try with the Will Jordan thing where he sort of got in between the passing lane and was able to just, make that Jordan pass sort of drop to hand. Obviously he had a few great breaks and everything, like, and that's
And
never
that
mind the fact
try-saving tackle.
try saving tackle as well. That's never mind the fact that Colby was fantastic himself in the 50
Will
minutes.
Jordan has Grant Williams nightmares.
Yeah, I mean, never mind. I mean, Jordan had to obviously he was battling with Hook at the start of the game. Then he has Williams sort of having to chase him around as well, and being chased by Williams as well. Like everything just happened really well. So I think on a backline sense, it was really good. I think, yeah, like we talked about, Hooker was really good at just chasing those lost causes. And then I think the forwards are just all great. Like there's not really much you can ask from more from them. I think apart from Visa, the other sort of special performance is Peter Steph to Toy. Just the normal general 9 out of 10 Peter Steph performance that we know we can pull out. So yeah, Sean, I don't know if there's any other players you want to sort of shout out from a Springbok side.
Sia Khaleesi,
Yes.
he's been getting. I feel like every week you kind of need to point out the good that he does because for some bizarre reason, like he's thrown around as like, oh, he's just a captain and therefore he's playing, or he's not that good, or it's bullshit. It bothers me immensely. I'm just like I just want to go and like just be like, well, did you see this? Like, look at this compared to this guy and this guy dominated. Like, if you had to show people blind stats on people on players, I can almost guarantee you every time they won't put Sia Khaleesi in the top spot where he is because they just don't rate him. Like guys were saying, oh, it's about time he had a good game. I'm like, are you shitting me? Like even last week at 8, he didn't have a bad game.
No,
Like it was clear our balance was out, but he didn't have a bad game.
no.
Like people need to understand that. But Kolisi was good. I think the important thing that we need to know is also is we were also so scared about him coming back from injury. And as much as I said, listen, we're never going to play him if he's not ready, I'm still worried about it because we need the guy. Like we need him. We need him more than almost any other player because of what he does. Um, and my word, he's stepped up big time. Like to be a forward and have a standout performance amongst those forwards on Saturday is quite something. And Sia Kolisi had it for sure. I think it was like our loose trio. Peter Steph Toy was his usual self. Everyone else lifted up a little bit in their game, so it almost overshadowed Peter Steph Toy. All eyes were on Visser for obvious reasons because we kind of worried about our 8. Like we were a little bit panic stations about, is this going to work? Because this is what we tried and tested. Visa also gets heat all the time for not being good enough. Like people don't watch rugby, so up your game. But he had a great game, and then Sif Kolisi was just cooking. And I mean, he was doing. I mean, I don't think Wallace Satiti has landed yet because I don't know if you saw it, but he bounced Satiti so hard. I was like, whoa, was that a scrum half? That looked like a scrum half. And then he rolls over and it's got an 8 on his back. And I was like, holy shit sticks.
Yeah, no, I mean, and obviously his break that created the try for was the Eastasian try. I can't even remember now, but like that's his ability. It's just we know how great he is at cleaning rucks. We know how great he is at tackling and just doing all the dirty work that doesn't necessarily get the stats. But I think the last year has been like the year of Kolisi being just used and applied as a great attacker, both for the Boks and for the Sharks. And yeah, I don't even engage with those people anymore, to be honest.
We don't have, I don't think we have, not just a flank, I don't think we have a loose trio player that is as effective as Sia Kolisi in the 5 meter. out wide. Like
No. Yeah.
Hanekom,
Him and PSS,
perhaps.
basically.
Yeah, yeah, that's also true. We've got like those two guys that operate either side. That's like a double threat. Um, and I mean, I think everyone just hopes that they give it to Khaleesi because they don't want Peter Steph running at them. But then Khaleesi, I think, is he bounces more people. He smokes people.
Yeah. No, he loves a run in a short line out when he gets the ball from the fly half. Like I think he's had Henshaw bounced and I think Daly bounced. Like there's a list of players. I'm sure there's a compilation that shows
We
you.
need to make this list. I'm gonna send that out to the dirt trackers next week. A list of people that Sia Khaleesi has bounced.
Yeah, it's a growing list, and he adds to it pretty much every week. Yeah, I mean, I think just in summary, great game. I mean, I'm sure you can I think Marks at least, like we said, the lineouts were a bit better. So Nokia, Marks, Dioch, I guess when he was still on, yeah, like it sort of gets a pass mark, and it's good enough that we don't need to sort of focus too much on it. But yeah, it was still what 77%, and luckily for us, the New Zealand line was even worse. So that had
Yeah.
yeah,
They got some thrower lighters from the Springbok camp. Susie's
yeah.
been in the mix.
So
I do want to say our props. I found it hilarious. To me, it looked like they came out in the second half. They had a chat at halftime, and Ricey's like, "You guys play until the first scrum, and then you're coming off." And then that first scrum was like 10 seconds later, and you can see they're all running off. I was like, "What? What a waste!"
I think that was actually the plan. So yeah, I mean, good, very good game from Che. I think Vilcolo is just yeah, it's just gonna be such an issue for teams. Like I think you almost have to be like, okay, our best loose head has to play off the bench, and as soon as Wilco stands up from his seat, you come on and you have to sort of sort him out. So I think that'll be quite interesting to see. Look, speaking of the All Blacks, yeah, I mean, like we said, this rugby championship has been so weird because the line between brilliance and what the hell's happened is so fine, and it sort of literally oscillates every week. And we've seen in New Zealand, like they had a really good win against Argentina, then they lost, and just their attack was absolutely nowhere, and their discipline was nowhere. And this week or last week, they had a really good game and they did a lot of things really well. And then this week, it just didn't really happen for them. I I think there's a few things for me, Sean. Like the bench, number one, just they got nothing from it. I think we mentioned when we saw the team, like this seems like a pretty inexperienced bench for the All Blacks. And I mean, obviously they've had a lot of injuries. Hotham also went off quite early, so it wasn't like there were like players that they could sort of throw on to try and change the game. So then by the time the Springboks were sort of starting to roll, and it was that last 20 minutes, and with all due respect, and these players might be better later, but you're throwing on Muir and Williams and Holland and Karifi and McAllister. You're just like, that's not going to necessarily change things for them. But you mentioned the second thing, which is it just seemed like they just gave up, and not necessarily in a negative way, but it just they weren't really fighting the momentum. Like they just were
Just
like,
couldn't anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, just couldn't. Like, you guys are better than us. We can't. We're trying, but we can't.
yeah. So the wave sort of just crashed over them. I think though in approach, I I'm still gonna stand on the island that yes, maybe the All Blacks. It doesn't. I mean, I thought they were maybe closing the gap on the Springboks in physicality. Doesn't seem like that after this game, but I still think that's the best way for them to win is to sort of play a more of a control, tight game. And they were, I think maybe they saw the Moody thing and they were like, okay, let's try to sort of attack them and let's, you know, with All Blacks, we need to play a certain way. I don't think that served them well. And yes, it got them a really good try, and yes, it maybe could have got them another try or two. But then when they're trying to get back into the game and they're trying to throw the ball around, they had no answers. So there's so many things. I think there's some approach questions, there's selection questions, there's, like who are sort of the leaders, if you want to call them that, to try and sort of stop a situation where, okay, the Boks are now on fire. How do we stop this from at least keeping us in the game, getting us a bonus point, or the very least not letting them get a bonus point? Like, yeah, I don't know how, yeah, where you are, Sean, because even I was listening to the For the Love of Rugby podcast. They were like, you know what, they're not as They don't think the sky is falling. They don't think everything is wrong. And I guess that's where this rugby championship is, that you really could look horrible for 40 minutes and now it feels like, the world is ending.
Yeah. The All Blacks, the All Blacks very much seem like an Eddie Jones Japan side that needs some time to prepare for a game and then they will perform in that game, but the week after they struggle. So their plan B is not always there. If plan A doesn't work, their plan B struggles. And to me, it feels a lot like, especially like you saying it reminded me is they're like, cool, we see that moody thing, so let's work on that. Like, let's attack that, as opposed to dictating spaces. The Springboks dictate so much. We very seldom, like, we've earned our time here, and every big side has done that. You find your rhythm and your space, and you just are so good at your strength that sides spend their whole time trying to unlock that so they can get a foothold in the game and then try and impose themselves. Like Ireland, you know what's happening with Ireland. It's coming no matter what, and you've just got to try either defend it or hold out and grab a couple of lucky points and stuff like that. The All Blacks are in that space where they're, I feel their world is being dictated to them how they manage. They don't play their game; they play something to beat your game, and that is the probably the biggest issue. I do think that they have the players to start working on their game. But instant redemption means they don't have the opportunity to do that. You kind of got to work on your game while still managing other people's games until you can start enforcing that. Holland is an interesting one. I don't know if he's the right option off the bench, but I can't see him starting. So what are you going to do? Are they going to possibly look at starting him and put Barrett on the side of the scrum?
Or
I say, yeah, I say that a lot because I still think that that's a good shout. But I think they've got the players. Like they've got players like a Ruben Love and a Quintapaya. Like they're not going to give you goosebumps when they're playing against you. But they're good enough in that team environment and that unit to unlock you some way, shape, or form. Like that's the All Black way. Like it's in them. They know how to do it. They know everything that's going to happen from any which part of the field. So they've got the players to do it. I just think they need to figure out the balance of it. They need to manage like your third choice player. Like they need to get that figured out because their first and second choice are there. It's when they go outside of that that things change massively. They don't bring their third choice player in and play the same game plan. They kind of change their game plan and their space a little bit. And also Razor's in shit. I think I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think he's in trouble. Um, I think the Eden Park win really took a load off, but it's everything that's happened before that Eden Park win took a load off for that week. And then you go and do what you do this Saturday and take such a beating that you're worried about Australia coming to Eden Park.
Yeah.
I would Australia, the South Africans hate it, but I'm telling you now, there could be nothing better in the Wallaby All Black rivalry in this world than Australia beating the Eden Park Hoodoo and winning the Bledisloe Cup back this year. That would literally, firstly, Scott Robertson would go. New Zealand rugby would be freaking out, but it would force change and would be in an unprecedented space in the professional game, like some space we've never really seen before. So yeah, I just don't know what's going on. I saw someone say, Scott Robinson, there was a kind of list of stuff about New Zealand rugby and what's going on. And they were just like, Scott Robinson is just an average test rugby coach. I don't know. Is he going to be painted by the Heineke Meyer brush in that he was selected as a coach like 3, 4 years too late or 2 years too late? I don't know what they're going to do or how they're going to do it. I think for starters, they need to bring Leicester Fanganuku into the mix. Um, I don't have a major problem with Billy Proctor. I think Billy Proctor is such a great option when
He's
they've
been
got
fine,
such
actually.
such dynamic, groundbreaking players, game-breaking players around him. I think Billy Proctor is great, but in this environment, it's not doing so well. You need a linking player there. Leicester Fanganuku came in for Tasman in the Ranfurly Shield this weekend. He came in at 12 um, for an early, like a pre-game injury of some sort. So he played 12, had an incredible game. But he's an option that could change things up for them. He's got All Black experience. Like, I don't particularly want to see Proctor go, but if there's any change that's going to happen in the back line, it's probably at 13. I don't think anyone else can really be moved out.
Yeah. Look, I think in terms of changes, they need to just, I think the props, not that they need to change, but they need to be better. Like, we've
Yes.
seen potential from Lomax and De Groot and Williams and Newell.
Williams must start.
I think it's because he's been injured most of the season, so they've been sort of slow playing him, but they need to be
How's
better.
that working out for you?
Not quite, yeah.
Sorry,
So
that was nasty.
yeah. So they just need to be better because they've shown potential where, they've given the Boks some pressure. They've given the French pressure in the scrums and in the tight phases. And even last week at Eden Park, they were able to sort of hold on to that. So they need to be better. They almost all need to step up. I don't know what happened with McAllister. It felt like Brody McAllister when he came on, he was sort of pulled from the crowd and they're like, hey, you're throwing into the lineouts. And obviously, yeah, pretty much that became a mess. So obviously with Taylor there, but I mean Cody Taylor's in his mid-30s. Like, can he play for a lot longer? Tokiaho, at least I think he's come back to his old form. Yeah, so who's, like you said, who's that third choice behind him that can sort of
Cody Taylor's
take the
got to
form?
go to the next World Cup. The thing is he he is not bad. Like he holds up at scrum time. He's pretty good with his darts. He gets around the park. Like you can get 20, 30 minutes out of him, worst case scenario. He's a Jamie George kind of a player. Probably not as accurate with his lineouts, but
Yeah,
he's a Jamie George kind of player where you play him, you moan because he's old, but he goes on, doesn't put a foot wrong, and you'll just moan about him again the next week. Whatever.
yeah. No, he's needed because it doesn't seem like, I mean, McAllister is not really working for him. George Bell, they've not really been out with that. Amor, I think last year seemed like he was getting there. So I'm not sure why
Yeah,
he wasn't
that's
picked.
yeah. I didn't watch enough Super Rugby, but that was my question. Was what about a sophomore?
Yeah. I think, yeah, look, I don't mind Holland. I think there's like the potential's there. And I think he's shown enough where you're like, okay, there's something there. It's now,
Yeah,
like you said,
fair.
just find the role, find the balance. Is it Barrington to provide? Maybe not. Maybe they need to sort of be close to a 6-2 and Tuipulotu needs to come into the fold when he's fit. And I mean, look, Parker, I think, was good for his two tests. So I don't mind him at 6. Satiti, I think, is kind of finding his feet, well, literally from this Khaleesi bounce, but I think he's obviously been injured and all that sort of stuff. Audie's Audie, so he's not a problem. And then, like we said, the backs just don't really have that magic dust anymore. So Carter, I think, was fine, but he was being targeted by the Springboks, and I think they really were like just eating off him, like as someone that you could put a high balls under. So is that now time for Caleb Clark? Like we said last week, I don't know if there's outside backs that are coming out of New Zealand that are helping. Because, like you said, if Proctor was playing with like who are the wings a few years ago? If it was Proctor inside of Mark Talea, I think it's a very different backline. Proctor, I think, is then in his bag of being a distributor. They just give it to the guy that can like break 12 defenders and all that sort of stuff. But now it's Leo Carter that's not really making that many meters. Is Will Jordan at 14? I think so. But then yeah, D-Mac and Bowden, that just really didn't really work. So I in some ways I also want to give them a pass because obviously 9, they've just had an omni shambles of a crisis there at 9. So they can't really even build like combinations from that. So But yeah, look, the Bledisloe Cup is a big pressure thing. And I think my last question before we move on to other rugby is, so South Africa, luckily for themselves, have organized almost two home games in these last two games, like one in Durban and one in Twickenham. So they're facing Argentina, and Argentina doesn't get a chance to go back to Argentina for their games. So Argentina's probably on the most of a back foot. New Zealand, Australia, they're at the Bledisloe Cup. New Zealand in Eden Park, Australia and Sydney. I think if I would rate chances for who wins the rugby championship, it's probably still South Africa because they seem the most likely to win two games. Not saying Argentina can't win a game against South Africa either in Durban or in Twickenham, but they probably seem the most likely to win two games. And then I think New Zealand is probably a little bit more likely than Australia to win two games, but not by much. But that seems like that'll be like one takes a home game, one takes a home game. And it's just basically, it's either bonus points or can Argentina get one game against the Springboks? And I mean, I guess it's good that the Springboks have found their form in the fourth round instead of finding it in the first round. Yeah, Sean, I mean, I think there's obviously a lot of permutations and bonus points and losing bonus points and all that sort of stuff. I think there's not, I mean, I think the Boks are the favorites, but I don't think that's something that people can be certain about because we know how good these teams are.
And how badly us, Argentina, the Wallabies, and All Blacks can play.
Yeah.
Like there's also that. I almost feel like every single team except South Africa could take a 30-point beating somewhere. Like th
Yeah.
that's
I mean,
also
like it pretty much almost did in Ellis Park.
it didn't happen, so therefore I can say as I please. So like that's the thing. The Springboks have definitely have an opportunity to lose a game. We can have a big win. Um, Australia can be competitive in one game, just lose and then take 40 the next week, or vice versa. They could win Eden Park and then take a pasting at Sydney. It's very weird. All I know is that after the next round, those two sides that won will be favorites. And then, like, that's going to be interesting, especially for the Springboks, because I'm pretty sure Rusty's already planned what has happened by the end of November this year. So everyone knows who's playing in Durban, and everyone knows, like, some of these guys are probably in London already. They're busy doing preseason with Saracens and getting ready for that final game. Like, so yeah, there's a lot happening, but to be fair, it's not a new thing for us. Like I remember when we first sent a team away to New Zealand or to Argentina while the other side was still about to play. It was a bit weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll be okay. We have to be favorites, but I don't think it's by much. I think it all hinges on how well we play in that first game, as opposed to if we're going to lose.
Yeah. And yeah, I think it'll probably come down to bonus points. Yeah, speaking of, let's quickly touch on Australia, Argentina, because I think we want to also spend some time with the quarterfinals. So Argentina win 28-26. Yeah, I mean, this seems to be the Australia formula of we'll let a team get 15, 20 points ahead of us and we'll come back in fierce might in the second half. Obviously, this time it wasn't enough. I think from a Puma side, they were just, I mean, they just were able to capitalize on Australia's discipline. Like, obviously, the try they got was so random. Obviously, the Julia Montoya charge down from a free kick. And then everything else was just like, okay, Australia, if they keep going to concede so many penalties, we'll just score the points. Santi Cruz had a fantastic day off the boot. And it was just such a really mature performance from the Argentinian team. Australia was just kind of losing their heads. Harry Wilson was, I think the referee was just about to box him. And then for 20 minutes, Australia just absolutely turned it on to a 10 and they
James O'Connor.
literally almost grabbed the game from Argentina. Like, again, just like another sort of crazy game of just two extremes in the rugby championship.
Yeah, I love the Pumas approach of like just kicking points and just creating scoreboard pressure. It's something that we don't see from them. That's not the kind of game management we used to from them. We see them kick a penalty every now and then, but we don't ever really see them follow through with that like as a serious game plan option. They generally will throw it around eventually. Yeah, amazing. They went to sleep. Listen, the reason why the Wallabies turned was James O'Connor. Like, let's be honest. I told you on that group. I said if Australia go on to win this, James O'Connor's the greatest. Like, he's the goated Wallaby 10. Like, there's no ways. Like, it causes issues moving forward about how they're going to manage the 10 because I don't think they quite know. Like, I don't think they want to start James O'Connor at 10. I
Yeah,
think they want to have James O'Connor there as an option to help out, and they need other guys to do stuff beforehand. But yeah, what an unbelievable comeback. Controversy all over the show. I think Argentina really got a fright. Another 5 minutes in the game, and I think they lose. Maybe another 3 minutes.
yeah,
Like it was one of those kind of things where they were just literally holding on for the full-time whistle because they knew that they just couldn't stop what was coming. The
yeah.
only thing that was going to save them was the clock.
Yeah. And yeah, but, I mean, we talked about it on our group as well, but Harry Wilson, like, yeah, he needs to calm down. Like, I think Michael Hooper had a similar, I feel like mid 2010s, he had a similar game like that where he was just getting on a ref's nerves. And I think he's talked about it, like he's learned from it, all that sort of stuff. And new captains, I think, do need that game so they can learn, like, okay, this is not how you win a ref. You need to sort of go with more honey than than with sort of
It
trying to
was
beat him with the stick.
it was crazy. It was almost like he's like cool, I've I've got into this captaincy thing over the last few games. Like I've got this thing waxed. Now it's time for me to impose myself, you know? And then the game, like the pressure was on, they were losing. So he's like, I really need to impose myself more. I'm clearly not getting across here. So I need to, I've got to double down. Like he didn't like for 1 second go, let me just pump the brakes and then let's see if I can kind of get back on the right side of the referee. There was never an option. That's when you need someone like there. There are not very many experienced players in the field. Nick White, who's not the right guy for the job, but maybe
No.
James O'Connor, just be like, just pull him aside and just say, listen, bud, like we can't do this anymore. Nick White's probably sitting there like every single time something happened, he'd be like, go harder. Say more, because he's not listening to you. I can just totally see that. I love Nick White. What a gem.
Look,
But
Nick White is
yeah,
probably
such a weird.
literally the if maybe James O'Connor's the angel on the shoulder, Nick White's the devil, just being like, no, why is he not listening to you? Say more, speak louder, shout at him.
100%, 100%. Um, yeah, so it was weird. And the thing is it wasn't like it didn't seem like it was warranted. It felt like he was going out hard out the blocks from the get-go because
Yeah.
obviously he figured like I can get on top of Ridley, like I can bully him, and then he just carries on and carries on, and and it was weird. Like everyone was just kind of sitting back, going, "The hell's going on here? This is weird. This is unlike you. It worked beforehand what you were doing. Now you've gone and changed it. It's not working, but you're just like, I'm gonna make it work.
Yeah.
Hammer, nail.
Not it did not work for him. Yeah. I mean, just a weird game where literally a charge down free kick is the difference between two teams. Like just wild. Look, big shout out to Joshua Lee. I think again another good test. I think he's just getting better and better and better, which is obviously very scary for the rest of us. Um, I think Lucio Cinti was the man of the match, so he was really good. We talked about Carreras. I think Malia is just maturing and growing into it, into like that 15, that solid 15. And I think Boffelli's back in practice and training now, so he's also an option. Um,
How crazy is it? Sorry to interrupt you. How
yes.
crazy is it that Argentina haven't missed Boffelli? And remember what he was like. Like he was dominating. He
Like two
was
years ago, you probably could have been like a World Player of the Year nominee.
100% first name on the team sheet. You play him. He kicks your goals. He's solid as he's got a line break or two or five in him. Like you've got to play him. Now, like I almost kind of forgot about him. I was like, oh, it doesn't matter. Maybe he's
Yeah.
just been dropped.
So yeah, number one, and this could be big for rugby championship where it goes. Australia probably that last try shouldn't have happened because it came off a forward pass. I think it was. I think the ref and the TMO were just getting so much heat from the crowd and from Harry Wilson. I think that's probably maybe the win there for Harry Wilson. They probably got themselves a bonus point from this.
Yeah, it was weird. it was terrible. Like, let's be honest. I don't know. Like, I have no problem with things being missed in game live, like stuff like that. It's pretty clear the mandate is like play on and then we'll go back and look at it. But
Yeah,
then when they go and have a look at it to not really pick it up, like, was it clear and obvious? Yeah, it was. It wasn't even like doubtful.
yeah.
I just want to go back a little bit to Joseph Suaalii. As good as he's playing, the scariest part about it is he's done it with two different 12s.
Mm,
That changes the dynamic big time. He's done it with two different 12s and a number of different 10s.
yeah,
So it gets a bit scary now, especially when they get right back.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, Australia. Everyone obviously everyone predicted this. Australia would be top of the rugby championship log after 4 rounds. And yeah, I mean, points difference might be a factor. So the Springboks, their big win helps them. They have now a higher points difference than everyone else. New Zealand has the lowest, which again, everyone predicted. So yeah, I think there's a lot that's going to happen. These last two games are going to be absolutely cinematic. Um, and yeah, I think there's a lot to look forward to there. Sure, let's go to the Women's World Cup. I mean, a lot of drama there as well. Let's start with the Springbok Women. I can't describe how proud I was after the game. Like I was almost in tears with them being in tears and them lifting Cindy boy. I think she's probably retiring after this, and she's obviously been a stalwart for them. We were level with the Black Ferns at halftime. Like to me, that's almost like that's pretty much bigger than pretty much any other rugby achievement we've done, men or women, because the gap between those two sides, even probably last year, was probably around about 80 points. So a must-win game. It's not like the Black Ferns were playing a second or a third team in any sort of manner. And through just some, I don't even know what to call what Swayster Brain was doing with the mauls from scrums and the 50-man lineouts or 15-woman lineouts, Nadine Roos going up, like just all this innovation. It literally threw the All Blacks in a tailspin. Like we had a game where we tested the Black Ferns and really had to push them to, get to their best. Like if the Black Ferns, I think, face pretty much everyone except for us and maybe Ireland, they can sort of win that, as we saw with like England and Canada. They can win that in like second, third gear. And we had to put them in a place where they had to go to fifth gear, at least for like the part of the second half. So just immensely proud of the team, them executing it, the carrying, the number of tackles they made the Black Ferns do, all the innovation from Swayce and the coaching staff. Like the first 40 minutes pretty much worked almost all the way to plan.
Yeah, it was the thing. The big thing was the Black Ferns were made to work in that first half in a way that they haven't been asked to do in a long time. And most certainly not against a side that would probably not be categorized as a tier one side in the women's game. Um, the defense that they had to do, you got the feeling the Black Ferns were like, we need to weather the storm. But what they didn't realize was the storm just kept coming.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Like it would just like cool, the cold front is gonna pass. And it just didn't. It just hunkered down. It was
Take
that
cold
that
front.
cold front that at the start of winter that lasts for 2 weeks. Like they weren't ready for it. And the best part was not just defensively how much work they had to do, but was the errors they were making. That was that was the point where I was like, we are on top of them. Like it's not a case of they were like, we are going to deal with this and then we will overcome it. It's they were making errors. Passes were going to ground. They were doing stupid things. Like it was proper scramble city. And you do that by putting a side under pressure, by making them doubt their game plan, by making them doubt that they've done the right prep or that they are actually physically and mentally ready for the game. And we made them sweat for 40 minutes, and halftime came at the best time. Great halftime speech. They changed things up. They really came out a different side, and we couldn't hold on. And it was same old story. You go to sleep for a little bit against these sides, and you take the heat. But I'm so proud of how we then came back after that.
Yeah. That I
It
think I was
was,
looking about to say.
yeah, it was amazing. I'm so proud. I was just like, oh, we what has happened, what this Women's World Cup has done for rugby, not just women's rugby, but for rugby,
Mm,
is has been huge. But what the South African women have done for rugby, for women, girls, for everyone in this country is huge. We are boxing with the women Boks and the Springboks and our seventh side. Like there is so much to look forward to, and we've got guys like Sways to Brain who are going to the women's setup, and we're so used to seeing Sways do incredible things at Super Rugby level, at Springbok level, and then goes to the women's side, and then he does this. Like it changes everything. These women are household names. They're gonna like get stopped in the street for autographs and stuff like that. Bring
yeah,
it on, man. That's what we're here for. I'm so stoked.
yeah. No, I mean, genuinely them making the Black Ferns concede so many penalties. Like they conceded 12 penalties. They had to make 252 tackles. At half
What?
time, they had only 19% possession. Like that, I mean, we kind of talked about,
They
of course,
thrive on possession.
yeah.
Possession is their game.
No, I mean, look, they're so dangerous. If they have enough of the ball, if they have 50% of the ball against pretty much anyone, they probably win because they'll probably score tries with that possession. And I mean, I think we talked about on Thursday, and I think we said, look, if the Springboks can find a way to not give them the ball, great. And I think, look, maybe there's a bit of skullduggery, a few of the injuries and all that sort of stuff, but the game was literally on the Springboks' terms. Like the pace of it,
Yes.
how tight it was, how physical it was, like how set piece was just a weapon for the Bok team. And the Blackfurs just didn't really have any answers to it. Like someone like Georgia Miller, and not really to like single her out, but it's just like, okay, she's not used to this because she's been playing sevens and she's been like obviously running riot. And now she's in a game where she has to make 15 tackles against very large players as well. And now she's just like, what the hell is this? And they've conceding penalties. I feel okay, the ref could given them a yellow card at some stage, but it was just compounding and compounding. And look, if I think if this team is sort of playing, and I guess I mean, that's not a future thing, but like we need to make sure that this team is playing New Zealand, France, Ireland, England, Canada as much as possible, so that at least we have that sort of where we still sharp against those teams, even though if we maybe don't qualify for WXV1 anytime soon, is we do organize a tour to New Zealand or a tour to Europe or whatever the case is. So we do keep sharp so that in 2 years' time, if we're in the same situation and we put a team like that under pressure, we can win that game. And you see now, which is kind of the disadvantage with the WXV program, is the likes of us, to an extent, Ireland, obviously Ireland have the Six Nations. You don't have the experience of closing out a game against these good teams. And I think for the women's Boks team, if they maybe didn't concede maybe one or two more tries and it was 24-10 in the last 20 minutes instead of 41-10, there's a chance there. There's maybe a chance to sort of level things up. And we saw that like the bomb squad wasn't far off what the starting team did. So yeah, I mean, I think there's so much to sort of build on for this. So yeah, hopefully Sora is able to put the money where their mouth is, start really professionalizing like the local game as well, so that it's not only the Bulls and like you said, maybe Boyland as well, but like the whole sort of like women's first division of the Currie Cup. Like we have 80, 100 players that are professional, that are playing week in, week out. And slowly but surely we get the games against these top teams and we can really hopefully have a shout in 2027.
Yeah, there's two things. Like, I'm a fan of the WXV setup because there's opportunity for us to kind of get promoted.
Yes.
So there's that, and I think that's enough of a cherry kind of to dangle there and incentive for us. The other thing is because we have everyone playing at home, we really do have a chance to get groups together more often, and we are going to be dangerous at home. So, like, there are sides that are going to come over and just be like, we actually need to properly prepare for this. The other thing, and listen, I would love a rugby championship for the women, but that's quite far down the line. I feel what I think would be a little easier is perhaps come November, or even June, July, is organize a one-off. June, July is probably more achievable because we don't need to fly everyone everywhere. We kind of just need a side to come down and just play two test matches, curtain raise for the men on a Friday night or a Saturday earlier on, and just the exposure, more test rugby, because I really feel it would be very short-sighted and pretty stupid for us not to take what we have built now and start growing, because we have the opportunity to grow not only the women's game, but the actual women Springbok side bit more, because everyone's got a taste of it now. The
Yeah.
fans, the players, the players that are not test players yet, like everyone's got a taste for it. We've seen it. Everyone wants that. The focus now is literally going to be Australia, like because they're hosting the next one, if I'm not mistaken. So like that's where the focus is going to be. So we've got 4 years to do what we really want to do and build it more, because look at what we did in such a short period of time. Let's host more. Let's get more people together. I think we're on a very, very good wicket.
Mhm. In terms of just individual performances, I'll start here with Sizopila Solonzi. So she was the one that had to play 80 minutes, and she just stacked up the numbers. Like in terms of like she had, I think, the most or second most meters in the game. She had two turnovers, which was the most in the game as well. She carried 9 times. She tackled 9 times. She was obviously she was the player that sort of the designated survivor that had to now play 80 minutes, where the others could obviously break after 40 or 60. And she really did well. And I think she was the one sort of leading the charge, that sort of second charge in the second half with the bomb squad. And look, it's not similar to the second bomb squad where the second team's as good as the first team. There is a bit of a drop in level there. But she was able to be like, look, we can still, get something out of this game. We can still get a try. We can still really compete, after sort of the dip in the 40 to 60 minutes. So she was fantastic. I'll leave you to discuss like Dolphin and some of the backs, but yeah, obviously the forwards were really great, especially that starting team. Like put a lot of pressure against the Black Ferns in the scrum, and just they were relentless with carrying. Everyone was just ready to be like, I'll take 10 carries today. I'll sort of absorb all the physicality that I need to. And this is pretty much the way to just get through it, and the pick up and goes and the carries and just forcing that momentum, and then obviously getting over for the 3 tries that we scored.
Yeah, it was so good. Um, I thought the balance, picking the right person to stay on in the forward pack is almost as important as making the changes at the right time. Like
Yeah.
you don't want to have someone go on and you just be like, shit, that person should really probably be sitting on the bench now. We should have left someone else on. So that was good to see. Um, yeah, we came out charging. I loved it. I thought Nadine Roos was pretty handy. She played a different game to her usual game, like completely settled. She's grown so much, so I definitely owe her an apology. I was a little bit nervous about like her at 9. And I was just basically shitting myself the whole time, like if she went down because we had no other 9 option. I was just like, holy shit, this is going to be mad. Um, I just want some Boyer impresses me all the time. If I'm
It
not
was so hard.
mistaken, she I can't remember which game it was in the World Cup, but she makes the most unbelievable tackles. That is the one thing about her. She's an ankle hunter. Like she just hits you nice and low, drops you down. Like she's super accurate on D. I can't remember who we were playing, but I saw a couple in this game where they were like kind of breaks and she's gone in and you're like, oh, if she doesn't come right with this tackle, we're in trouble. Nguevu was great. Oh, we've got to figure out a way of keeping Nguevu and Hele on for longer. Like
Yeah.
we need them to just go. Like just truck it up for 70 minutes. Um, but yeah, it was great. I wish we had let Malinga free a couple more times. But I will be honest, the Black Ferns totally wrapped her. Like there was a plan there. They definitely saw the danger and they really managed that, especially when she got the ball. You could see that there were two players working really hard to get to her. Yeah, I was super impressed. I loved it. Sure. I'm feeling all warm and tingly inside.
What did you prefer, the 15 women lineout or the more from a scrum?
Oh, that more from the scrum was that was like I think it happened first. It was like the Swiss. That's everyone is like that meme where Leonardo DiCaprio sits up and he's smoking and he points. That's exactly what it was like. Oh, I know you did that. Um, but the 15 player lineout was for me, was for the big one. I love that scrum maul. I thought it was quite exciting. We did it a couple times, but that lineout, it almost is like as much as the Black Ferns were expecting it, they were caught off guard.
Yeah. I mean, what do you do? Especially if you're not, I mean, look, the Black Ferns, I think they do have a problem with their rolling maul, and I'm sure Canada and England have taken big note of that. Like, everyone's in. I mean, I saw the Black Ferns have like three or four of their backline players still out because obviously you keep
Yeah.
before break if like the whole field's open. You're also like, should we all commit? Should we not commit? What do we do?
And then it started marching as well. That was very interesting for me. I, there's a chance for us. Like if we can get that tighter and have that ball more readily available at the back, I think we can go hard because we still we're still missing just that a bit more control, I think
Yeah,
is maybe more accurate. Like that control where that ball kind of frumples up and then you don't know where the ball is and then the momentum's lost. Like with that, you just want to keep the momentum going until you're over the try line or until you get a penalty.
yeah,
Um, and it comes with control. But listen, there's a hell of a lot going on there. Like you're trying to manage people all over the show. You're trying to manage the backs because they half the time don't know what they're doing anyway when it comes to maul. Yeah, but it was amazing, and they were just marching as well. I was loving it. Like so often you see that control thing comes into play when your maul is going so fast that you kind of get ahead of yourself, and it just disintegrates by the speed by just because you can't be tight enough. So, but flip, we're gonna definitely do that again, and we're definitely gonna get points off it. We can totally do a 2019 maul compilation, something that'll stick around in World Rugby for decades to come. Everyone's like, "Do you remember that 60-meter maul?"
yeah. No, I mean, I think it'll be, and that's why I'm so excited about is hopefully we do play like teams like England and Canada who have strong packs, and we try these things and just see, okay, can we sort of put them under pressure with this as well? But I think we got almost the right quarterfinalist to do these things because obviously the Black Ferns, they're not really, I mean, their forwards are good, but they're obviously just a back attack team. And sort of speaking on that, obviously just how good, I mean, for me, their best player, I mean, or sort of not best, but like player that sort of is underrated that doesn't get enough credit, Stacey Walker. Like she just links everything together and she's just so good at, as Shaun puts on his hoodie, she's just so good at just being that link player that just puts away the Portia Woodmans, the Braxton Saracen McGee's into space. So she was fantastic. I mean, obviously the play of the match, Kuiper Olsen Baker was really good and she just ran riot, especially in that sort of 20-minute period. I mean, she scored, I think, three or two tries and she made 26 tackles. So she really had a big day in the office. But you just saw, and that's obviously what the other teams are going to have to work on, is the Black Ferns defense, considering the fact that they had so little ball, was pretty good, more or less. I mean, they absorbed a lot, especially making 200 odd tackles. So they obviously have a lot of line speed. They obviously got caught offside, I think, a few times, but clearly their sort of mandate is shoot. Whenever you see like, okay, this person's getting the ball, you back yourself, Georgia or the locks, or maybe a center, whoever it is, just shoot and just make the hit and just put them under pressure and just put their skill set under pressure. So that defense, I think, will be very important. And then obviously, any form of broken play, it's almost 5 points. Like you're going to probably concede because, you have sort of the best players in the world in those situations. So look, when they can turn it on, and they did in those like 40 to 60-minute period, and they sort of scored, it felt like 5 or 6 tries in that time, and they were just irresistible.
They were amazing. And to think that 5 players made 95 tackles for the Black Ferns, I think it was.
Yeah, more than 20.
Like
Yes.
it's ridiculous. On Stacey Walker, I would just like to commend this the women books on how they managed Walker,
Yeah.
because Walker has been just tearing people apart this whole tournament. She's got such a great turn of pace. She's got such a great adjustment that she can hit the line and force two defenders to come in on her. And I thought that we racked her up pretty well. There were times where they were forced into making errors, and that was just due to our defense and just being so brutal. But they pitched up, eh? The Black Ferns pitched up. Like the one thing about an all New Zealand side, they're going to work. They're not shy of doing the graft, and if they need to do it, like they do it. And the numbers from the forward pack, like the tackle numbers, the carry numbers, just the regular being in the game numbers was astronomical. Like there's numbers that they probably wouldn't see in 2 to 3 games, let alone in 40 to 60 minutes.
Yeah. I really want to see when else have those players made 20 tackles in any game. Never mind for the Black Ferns. But yeah, they get into a semi-final now against Canada. That'll be a blockbuster game. Canada pretty much disposed relatively easily of Australia, 46 points to 5. So if you
I
did,
was shocked. I was shocked. I thought the Wallaroos would put up a little bit of a fight. From the first minute that you're just like, oh no, this is gonna get ugly.
yeah. So if you did, was amazing. Like it
What?
feels like, look, it kind of feels like with Canada, they sort of tell their players, you all have to be good ruckers, you all have to be good passers, you all have to be good runners. And everyone just falls in everywhere. So it doesn't really matter who's at 9, everyone is able to pass, get into gaps and everything. But for Sophie, she doesn't even have to play with the game plan. If
No.
Sophie sees the ball, go for it. Do
Yeah.
whatever you
Yeah,
want.
yeah. 100%. They're like, cool. You just follow her and do whatever she does, and if it's on, it's on. And also, Sophie's gonna kick. So, like, what else do you want to do? Do you want to scrum in the front row or the second row? Okay, second row done. Kick, captain, do everything. Like, yeah, amazing. I know Canada are good. Like, the one thing that people need to realize that Canada are top class side when it comes to the women's game. And I know that Australia came into this tournament a little bit shaky. I know that them and New Zealand are not where they want to be in a World Cup year, but you know they're going to be competitive. And you know that they're guaranteed, like they can mess up the tournament for someone else, and a side like New Zealand can go all the way in a good year. I expected more from Australia. I was actually quite shocked at about how they were absolutely just obliterated. And that's like I didn't see Canada playing like that this whole tournament yet. They hitting their straps at the right
Just at the
time,
right time.
and we are in for some ridiculous semi-finals and a final.
Yeah. On the other side of the draw, England win 40 points to 80 in Scotland. Pretty similar to the Canada game. Scotland sort of more of a fight, I think, at the start, but England's quality just came through. Um, the France Ireland game was there's so much to talk about. And we've already talked about so much here. Sean, I don't even know where to start. Like, Ireland had a ridiculous start. France looked like they were absolutely lost in the rain. Then France started coming back. There's a bit of niggle. There's a bite even as well. Um, France scored a try pretty much from the end of the world, like 95 meters to pretty much win the
To
game.
win it, yeah.
Yeah, like it's it like this was probably the best game of the tournament so far. Probably one of the best games this year, full stop. And I feel so sad for Ireland, but I also like geez, France also did really well to obviously get themselves back in the game in the second half. Obviously, the wind was behind their backs, and it just seemed like poorly. I don't know if they didn't expect the wind and the rain, if they didn't look at the weather in the morning, but because the first half just seemed like they were like, no, we're gonna still play like the game they played last week with like the offloading and the passing. And in the second half, thank goodness, the coach was just like, guys, I'm not sure if you know, but there's rain. And then Bourdon Santos was just like kicking the ball and just getting in the right areas. And then they started being able to play their game a bit better.
Yeah, I think the Black Ferns and France are so well set up for the rest of the tournament because of the of those two quarterfinals. Like, you know what I mean? Get that wake up. I know I said before the quarterfinals, I'd much rather we played Ireland than New Zealand. I thought we'd have a better chance. I didn't see that from Ireland. The way that they pitch up. Listen, obviously they play the French every year with in the Six Nations, so it's not like it's a brand new side they're playing. But they had their game plan, just like our game plan in the first 40 minutes. Like the Irish game plan was top class. When they took a was 10-point lead first, they got to, and I was like, this is interesting. There's 10 points and what they have 13 points at halftime. I was like, this is fun. The 40 minutes with a 13-point lead in that weather is enough. Like it's enough for you for a side to be worried. But the French came back. There was a lot of niggle. There was a lot of stuff going on. The bite is ridiculous. Like there's going to be 3, 6, 10 month ban from that.
Yeah.
That like honestly that affects the results of the game potentially. And then that final line out was also interesting because there's possibly a penalty there. Not a line out. Yeah, that final line out. It was just, but the moment as a whole, I think France were just a little bit more composed. And by a little bit more, I mean by like a 0.5%. I thought Ireland just played the most unbelievable game plan and they just were holding on, holding on, holding on.
Yeah.
And they were heartbroken. And it's what an unbelievable, like, it doesn't help now and it won't ever help to turn around and go, you guys were ridiculous, even though you lost. Like, that doesn't matter. You want a result. But to do that against a French side who, if we're very honest, are probably one of the only sides pre-tournament that would be able to challenge England.
Yeah.
And my word, that was insane, insane, and you could see it on the French women's faces and their body language and everything. They were shocked. They were shocked that they got away with that. They were shocked that they had to work so hard for it, but they were also just completely overwhelmed by the fact that they went on to do it. And to be fair, to go on and do that with the moment of brilliance of literally 70-meter coast to coast heads up rugby is quite something. It's not like they manufactured that try. Like they just it was on and they took it and they needed it desperately.
Yeah. Let's just very quickly on the bite. Yeah, obviously, look, there's a lot of heat, I think, for Amy Barteron and I think the officiating team for this game. I think what probably happened to sort of maybe shoot ABT some defense is I think she's relying on the TMO to make the check. And I think she did say, look, the TMO is going to check it. I'm not sure what the TMO didn't see there because obviously it looked relatively clear that, yeah, I don't think there's much doubt that there was a bite there. I just don't know why you don't intervene there and just say, look, this is something that needs to be looked at and whatever. Like, even if you're not sure if it's a bite, like it needs to be something that's penalized at the very least. So I just don't know what the failure in that process was.
If that goes to an official review as the red card,
Yeah,
um, France probably don't go through. It would have been the biggest story of the whole tournament.
yeah,
I I agree with you. I think like Amy Barrett-Turan can't make that call there. It was brought to her attention, and I can't remember exactly what was said, but she said it will be checked or it has been checked. So
Yeah.
did TMO just look at that, like glance over it and miss it? No, I don't think so. Were they looking at the wrong thing? Or they just look at it and kind of been too much shock, like, I don't really want to be the one to do this.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's your job. Like, so yeah, I don't know the process. I lie. We know the process. I just don't know how that happened. Like, did I don't know. Was a French was a French person in charge of the directing of everything? Like, was that a little bit of home ground advantage? Like,
It's
I'm
not
going
the
to give you
top
that little
14,
bit.
Sean.
Mate, you never know. I don't know. Like, we kind of got to look for those as options when something like that happens.
Yeah.
But the thing is, did you see the video? Like, I saw stills of it the whole
Yeah.
time,
No, I
and
saw the
then I saw
video.
the video, and then she just gone. I was like, oh, whoa, hang on a second. It wasn't at the bottom of a ruck. Like, she
No.
grabbed the hand and kind of like, oh, a millie.
I mean, she is called Afi Wafer, so to be fair to her, like, just want to have a taste of the
Crunch.
wafer. So,
Wild. And Wafer also, she was like, my arm, ref, did you like? I
yeah,
think
she was
everyone was
shocked.
kind of like, what? What the hell just happened here? But
It's
that's
wild.
that's a month span.
Yeah.
Also, I can't wait for Ireland, France, Six Nations next year.
Yeah.
I'm watching that for real.
Yeah. I mean, I think the minimum ban is 8 weeks for a bite. So yeah, she's definitely not gonna be what's her name? Bartomeu. She's not gonna be in the World Cup, but she's not playing anymore. Um,
No. And there's no ways they're going entry level on that. It's not like the arm was in the face and she like went, grabbed it, found the nice soft spots on
yeah.
the arm,
I just
premeditated.
I don't yeah, I don't know when I mean, yeah. I just don't know what goes through your mind to be like in the game or just generally in life, just to be like, hey, okay, there's a time for you to for a bite. Ah,
And it wasn't even at the bottom of a ruck, like it wasn't even hidden away.
yeah,
Like it was
yeah,
literally in the open.
yeah. But I do think because you said like there was a bit of niggle in that game, especially at the end of the first half. So I
Oh,
guess obviously these players play each other every year, like at least once a year. So obviously they know each other pretty well. So maybe, if someone watches the Women's Rank wants to let us know, there must be some law or whatever behind like why these two sides maybe particularly hate each other. But
yeah.
yeah, you maybe that sort of led to that. I mean, there's also something from there's like a video about from Pauline Bourdon Santos that it looked like she pushed a player maybe close to the face, but I don't think that was what it was. I don't think the clip is conclusive. So I mean, obviously France were feeling the pressure, and they
Didn't
were
they?
trying to
They
take.
nearly had a little bit of a punch up at the halftime whistle as well.
Yes, yeah,
Like that was proper. For halftime whistle went, and I was just kind of, you kind of zone out a little bit,
yeah.
like it's halftime, and then I was like, all out was hey, and you're like, oh, this is unusual in the women's game, especially. And then they're like, "Vroom," and I was like, I'm almost waiting for someone to like. That's what it looked like. Like it got pretty serious. So I'd love to know what happened there, but there was proper spice.
And that was after what Ireland were attacking for 32 phases, and France just heroically kept them out. And that probably won them the game essentially.
That's
Because,
where they won,
yeah,
100%.
I think
Six
18 nil.
6 minutes, 46 minutes, and 30,000 phases.
Yeah. And it wasted a yellow card because I think the yellow card
That's
sort of just ran over. Yeah.
that's so true. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
If Ireland score there, they win.
Yeah. I think so. But yeah, I mean, look, on the Irish side, Wafer and Dugong had just ridiculous games. And I think especially for Wafer, coming back from injury, I think there was like two or three times where it looked like she's done, like her shoulder's done, or maybe her knee's done again.
Yes. When she was getting her knee set up, I was like, she's gone. That looks like it's knee. You come back from injury, you're done.
Yeah. Still was able to make 20 carries, made two turnovers, made like the most Richie McCaw turnover I've seen, where she, like, the ruck isn't formed. She's coming pretty much from the French side, steals the ball. And it's just like, this is insane. Like, just a ridiculous game, like near the top 4 meters. Like, obviously, you see how much better the team is when she's playing. And Linda Jugong, she's obviously like we see the importance of props in the women's game, and she just had an all-round performance. Scores a try, also has two turnovers, played I think 80 minutes or close to 80 minutes, 22 carries for herself. Like you saw the importance of like just those two players just leading the charge there, and then obviously everyone else can sort of play around them. I think O'Brien's kicking was really good off out of hand as well, just kept them in the right half in that, especially when the wind was with them. And they had the scrum advantage. I don't know if it was because the wind, they just didn't want to kick penalties to touch because there was that period where France then got points from that, where they had a penalty, they then took the scrum and then got another penalty. But it's just like, okay, you haven't really moved forward with that. Like, just kick the ball out. Like, even if it's 20 meters or 10 meters, that's better. Or at least tap and go, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
it just didn't. It did, I think both teams were like wrong or failed in managing the weather.
Yes. Yeah. Um, Linda Jugong was, oh, that was a machine performance. We've seen the one thing about the women's game, I know we mentioned a little while ago, is like the roles of different positions is a little bit different. I've seen more tight head props play 80 minutes in this tournament than I've ever seen in my life before.
Yeah,
And they're not just there to scrum. Like they're making carries, they're just busy the whole time. The other one that I was super impressed with was Stacey Flood at 15. She was impressive. Like it was probably probably the game of the tournament. Like there was controversy. There were two different sides of what has happened. Like Wafer coming back, Ireland being the underdogs. I don't think they definitely haven't beaten France in the last times, but I don't think they've ever beaten France. They must have some way. But an Ireland coming from where they have, like over the last few years, it was ridiculous
yeah,
and shame. I feel for them because it was almost like no side. Probably think Ireland should have won that, but you don't feel like anyone should have lost it,
yeah,
especially with the comeback the French had. Like the French came back with their backs against the wall big time. Like they were nowhere. They were literally looking at each other, going, what's going on? Like what's happening? Ireland have brought something we don't know how to manage it, and then they go on and win the game, and it was what a game of rugby.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, just also insane performances from the French side as well. Like, Fall had 30 tackles. Um, Esquedo was player of the match. She wins the Battle of the Red Scrum Caps. I think Vernier was really good in midfield. She just hits people just relentlessly. Ménanger and Grise are just obviously really good attackers. Bourdon Santos was just really good at managing the game. So, yeah, I mean, that France-England game, it's a weird rivalry they have because England, I don't think have lost to France, I think almost in 10 years or so. But almost every game, except for that warm-up game before the World Cup, it's always like a 2-point game or a one-try game, whatever the case is. And it's usually France coming back furiously in the second half after England get themselves 30 or 40 points ahead. So this, especially now France obviously getting through what they did against Ireland, if they're not like just absolutely spent and tired, they really could have a good chance here because they have the forwards that can at least match England. They obviously have a really good offloading and attacking game. They can score tries themselves. If they can just nullify or just slow down the England pack, there's a really good chance here that they could obviously upset the hosts.
Yeah. We're in for a cracker. I think what the French need to do is they need to kind of just compose themselves after that and just be like, cool, listen, it was a close call, but we did get away from it. Like we got in front of it, we learned from it, we moved forward. They know what to expect from England. France do have like I don't think you can completely stop the English pack, but French have a pack good enough that it can halt them more often than not, which is kind of like not conceding those 7 points could matter later. And they have the backs to score, but they're also up against England backline that are pretty dangerous. It's pretty well matched. And I watched the final of the Six Nations was the Grand Slam decided between England and France this year, and it was a cracking game, and France nearly did it.
Yeah.
So they've got a lot in the bank that they've got a lot to draw from, many losses. couple of close calls, especially this last weekend, and plenty against England. And couldn't think of anything better than doing it to England in England.
Yeah.
Very World Cuppy.
Oh yeah. Look, next week's gonna be amazing. First semifinals on Friday night, 8 o'clock our time, New Zealand versus Canada. And then Saturday afternoon, 4:30, France versus England. So yeah, looking forward to all of that. Just quickly on other rugby news, USA win the qualification match against Samoa. Big surprise there. They win 29 points to 13. So Samoa now are in sort of that sort of purgatory of playing qualifiers and having second and third and fourth chances. They have to now play Chile and qualify against them. I mean, this is big news though for the USA, like that they're able to get to qualify. So in terms of men's North American rugby, big winners of this is USA and Canada qualifying straight out from the PNC this season.
Yeah, especially considering it almost feels like USA and Canada have just been dropping
Yeah,
down into the abyss. The MLR has lost another side. Like it's a little bit of a shit show in USA rugby at the moment. South America is doing well. North America not so much. So yeah, it's interesting times, but at least this is something like a little bit of a constant. There's no scraping until the very end to make it through. You really, as you mentioned last week, can plan some good preseason or pre-tournament games. Get the hype up again. Hopefully, get some more guys over for 2 more years that can qualify for the US.
yeah, that as well. So yeah, look, I mean, bit of a worry for Samoa. Like, I mean, this is a team that obviously plays pretty much every World Cup, so they'll probably make it through. They still have enough quality to beat Chile or at worst, obviously win that repertoire tournament. But yeah, they don't want to be that team that sort of falls off here, and that's going to be quite interesting. So yeah, I have to look forward for that. And I mean, they also are kind of dependent on having players available and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, they sort of have the opposite problem now we can't really plan for 2027 because we have to still qualify for it. So that's
Yeah, and hope that a lot of their players are not playing in France because there's another shit show problem trying to get them released.
yeah. And then yeah, so Tonga beat Japan and then Fiji, I think, win the tournament overall. They thrashed their respective teams. So Japan, something's coming together there with Eddie Jones and
Didn't
the
Tonga have qualified? Hey,
yes, they've qualified. So
okay.
I think basically everyone but Samoa is qualified from this tournament.
Oh wow, that's nice.
So I think Fiji and Japan qualified before the tournament because they were in the top three in their groups. Then Canada, Tonga, and USA have joined in qualification. So yeah, on the Currie Cup side, we have our final, Golden Lions versus the Griquas. The Lions obviously just took waste to Boland, really thrashed them. Obviously, this is kind of like the URC team essentially playing, so obviously good warm-up for them. Um, and then yeah, Griquas sort of winning that sort of that's middle country derby there. Yeah, obviously, I think for the Lions, the nice thing for them is the likes of Heiko van Wyk, Kieran Horn looking really good, and Renzo Duplessis had, I think, a good impact from the bench. So, I mean, they'll be obviously massive favorites, and this is hopefully for them just momentum for the URC, but obviously just an opportunity to win, obviously, the Currie Cup here.
Yeah, it's huge. Like, listen, barring Ringo, I think everyone outside of Johannesburg really wants Griquas to win. Love a little underdog story.
Yeah,
Um, but like you said, the Lions just simply have to do it. Have to. Like they can't not.
I think goodness, yeah, like it's really gonna throw things into crisis if, already before the start of the season if they don't win there. Yeah, Sean, I mean, lastly, in terms of like the rugby stuff, we've had, yeah, there's obviously Super Rugby start, Premiership Rugby Cup starting, Top 14, Pro D2. But yeah, we just saw, I think, some breaking news from Leinster that has a South African twist to it, which is they've extended all of the assistant coaches, so Tyler Blaindahl, and importantly for us, Jacques Nienaber, they are staying in Leinster until the end of the World Cup cycle. So all of those conspiracy theories about Jacques Nienaber coming back seem like they aren't going to come to fruition now.
Yeah, I think, listen, that URC win for them, and obviously a whole bunch of conversations about how they're going to plan moving forward. Like, I'm happy for him. We always want the South Africans to do great overseas, especially if it's with the Irish team, so we can claim a little bit of it. Um, but yeah, I find it very fascinating how like the Springbok conversation a week ago was like it's all going tits up, Tony Ball's not working, we need to bring Jacques back. This week I haven't heard Jacques' name mentioned once until now when we saw that he re-signed with Leinster. It's such a weird space to be in. But I don't know if he would be the best fit to bring back into what we're doing. Like, we can't go back to that same defensive setup. He will absolutely be changing and evolving. He's not the kind of guy that does one thing and sticks to it for the rest of his life. Like, there are many countries and clubs and teams that are using this kind of setup. So he is changing and evolving it. It's just about marrying things together. But yeah, he's not going to be available. Maybe he picks up a consultancy job or comes in to help with a few other things. But yeah, I'm stoked for him. Good luck to Leinster.
Not too much good luck. Yeah, look, I also think maybe the deal might be, hey, look, Jacques, you can have this job also after Leo Cullen maybe goes to the senior setup, to the national team setup. So yeah,
They need to do it sooner rather than later. I promise you.
yeah. Look, I wonder if he is keen on that. I mean, he kind of mentioned he didn't really like it. Obviously, it was a toll on him. So maybe he's also not necessarily looking for a national team job, but provincials, like week to week, I guess you know what your hours are a bit better, and like you're only away from your home for maybe what 2 or 3 weeks for like big tours. So I guess this kind of maybe works better for him. So I think this probably means he's a likely candidate of being then a Leinster head coach, or if one of the South African URC sides brings him back. But I think I'd be more surprised if he comes back into international coaching. I think he had the taste of it. He was like, that's more than enough for me. I don't know if I'm going to come back anytime soon, but we'll see. Um,
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think like stay overseas, do your thing, and then, but I don't think he's lost to South African rugby. Like
no, no,
he'll
no.
definitely come back and be involved. And no matter how he's involved here with what union, he will be involved in the South African setup somewhere along the line. And
Yeah,
might not be officially, or it might only be on certain terms at home and stuff like that, you know. But yeah, agreed. And also he
yeah,
might miss it a little bit after the next World Cup. Maybe he comes back and we extend it for five in a row. Three, four, I
maybe.
don't know.
Yeah, fourth one in a row. But yeah, I mean, look, obviously, I don't think any of the URC coaches are necessarily comfortable with their seats. I mean, Johan Ackermann's just joined the Bulls. Everyone else is pretty much on varying levels of hot seats. So, like, I'm sure there'll be jobs available in a year or two's time. Very quickly, I mean, yeah, maybe I should have done this before the Ninabe news. Lee Blackett, he's been also added to the English coaching squad, or yeah, coaching squad finally, or on a permanent basis. So he was the coach that kind of replaced Richard Wigglesworth for the tour in Argentina. And obviously the English attack looked quite good. So now Wigglesworth is going to shift to the defense. Joel Al Abd is now going to the forwards. Yeah, look, Steve Borthwick likes a tinker. To be fair to him, before I listened now to For the Love of Rugby, they're saying like he really did a lot with the attack in the Argentina series. And I mean, England did really look good. I mean, especially considering they didn't have their Lions players. So that actually might be a positive. I'm not so sure if moving Wigglesworth out to defense and all that sort of stuff is going to work for them, because this is now their third defensive coach within 3 years. But yeah, look, Steve Borthwick does like to change things up pretty much every 3 months.
Yeah, whether it's the players or the coaching, it's wild. I think the big thing is Bath Massatia
Yes.
quite significantly, and so early in the season, they're
Yeah,
going to
they're
have to
not
make
trying.
some changes. So yeah, there's that. But I agree with you the part I agree with you the most on is the Wigglesworth move. I'm quite fascinated by that. Listen, he's not just going there as never having done defensive work and then all of a sudden he's England defensive coach. Like he's clearly done something, but it's been a bit weird. Um, so yeah, we'll see what it brings. One thing I will say, I think no matter how poor, and if they are, I'm not saying they are, I'm saying no matter how poor potentially this coaching setup and coaching move is, I think the England squad, the actual players, are getting better and better and better. So it could potentially paper over the cracks.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think the thing with Wigglesworth is he's just not been a coach for that long, to be honest. I mean, he was kind of player coach at the end of his career, but at most he's been coach for like what, 5 years? So it is a bit like interesting that, he's had to sort of move around to now be this and this role and that role. So yeah, I
Yeah,
guess you can think he's learning these things, but I mean, Felix Jones moved from attack to defense coach, but he's been coaching for close to 10 years. He was with Rassie and Jacques Minauba and Munster. So he's had more experience to sort of move around these roles where, I mean, Wigglesworth has just been sort of in this roller coaster of, with Borthwick, having a bit of time with the Lions, now sort of moving different roles. And I think this is like his third role now with the English team. So yeah, the it's weird that I guess Borthwick feels like he has to have Wigglesworth there. And I mean, look, fair enough. Obviously, they have their own rapport, but it's like he's going to put him in a job, whatever happens, and he's going to fit it in some way. And I mean, Joel
jobs for mates.
was brought because he's a defensive coach, and now he's being moved to the forwards, which is a bit weird.
Yeah, I don't understand. The only thing I care about is Ollie Lawrence and Ted Hill are in the squad. I'm upset that Owen Farrell's been not been named in the England squad because that would just burn everyone. Um, but other than that, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't really know what's coming. And
Look,
also, when are these guys going to get a break? Like, seriously, they're having like a pre squad ahead of November. Yeah,
Borthwick loves a squad. There'll be another
this is
squad announced
true.
in 3 weeks, so don't worry about it. I'm sure.
I reckon they don't even meet. There's no face to face or anything. He literally just sits there and removes people from the WhatsApp group, adds another guy. Hey guys, welcome Lee. Everyone chats and then they send a presser out and that's their
Yeah.
preseason.
I kind of admired from Borthwick because he's like basically me and pretty much every other rugby sicko, like just making 15s the whole time or squads or okay, World XV of left-handed players or World XV of players that were born on the 6th of October. Like, yeah, so he's that sort of person, and I fully admire that.
And he's got the platform to do it, so he's excelling.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if I was ever a coach, I'd also just have a squad every week. I remember Super Sport used to have this thing with when you play Super Rugby called, I think, a Bok barometer of just like
Yes.
obviously like form players and who should make the Springbok squad on that basis. I'd pretty much do that as the coach and just be like, you're in, you're out. You had a crap game now against like Leinster, so you're out of the squad, out of the WhatsApp group. Okay, you just proved yourself against the Dragons, you're back in. Like, yeah, just throw some chaos into that.
Jeez, imagine the mental breakdown players would have if they knew they like put a foot wrong and they'd be dropped from the squad entirely.
Yeah. Just on a more somber note, we actually lost two Springboks this week. First, Jan Boylan Coetzee used to play for the Springboks in 1980s, big in the Stellenbosch and Paarl area, and as a winemaker as well. Like just even in my time as a Stellenbosch student, you heard about Jan Boylan and like the wine farms that he had. So yeah, almost like part of like the Western Province culture there as well. So like he unfortunately passed away, and also a bit more unexpectedly was Bevan Fontaine. I mean, he was literally a player in the 2000s. Got I think two Springbok caps as well. Was now in coaching. I think he was involved with the Cheetahs and Shimlers as well. And I think Rassie Russell was talking about like he was coaching with them and obviously played with them back in the day as well. So yeah, really more of an untimely loss there for Bevan Fontaine, like just being lost, I think, in his mid 40s there.
Yeah, super sad. Two tests, one against Ireland, one against Australia. Both started at fullback, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Look, I think for me, he's just I think I had a lot of time for him. Like that Cheetahs team, obviously it's like a peak streets won't forget type of team because there were just so many interesting players that maybe aren't going to be like Springboks. A lot of them weren't, and a lot of them got like literally one or two caps, but like just really fun, entertaining players, especially in that era where the Curry Cup still had a lot of like significance. So him, Henny Danila, Willem de Waal,
Sure.
Kabamba Floors, those sorts of players that were really like really good professional players that just had enough in them that they wouldn't disappoint you if they had to play like at a higher level, but just had the ability and the talent, the skill. And like someone like Rassie Rasmussen or Leroux, like a bit older, like being like the senior citizens, like trying to help them along. And then obviously Rassie came into coaching with Bevan. I think my memory of them as a player was just really fearless and just sort of going for it in terms of like high balls and like tackles and like just getting the ball, like just played like the fullback position as if like everything was a battle and he wanted to sort of win that battle, wanted to get the ball, wanted to make that tackle, wanted to, you know, impose himself on like an aerial contest, and obviously was just a difficult runner to bring down as well. So in that sort of like Super Rugby or Curry Cup level, he was a really good player. He really was able to sort of make a difference for you, and it at least rewarded him with a few Springboks caps as well. And yeah, it's obviously very unfortunate, obviously, just on a personal level for him and like the family that he leaves behind, but also just in terms of like the rugby setup, like he was, yeah, starting to make his way in the coaching setup, and yeah, could have been someone that could like really contribute to this as well.
Yeah, yeah. I am from my hometown, George, but
Mm,
I do remember the thing I remember about him was just him running with ball in hand. Like I just remember you were kind of so often, yeah, so often you'd watch him run and you could just be like, something could happen here. Like that was the one thing. So yeah, it's quite a bummer. And obviously Damian Willemse spoke about him after getting Man of the Match award, which was really nice. And he spoke about how he knew him and how Rassie was also feeling the loss. So yeah,
yeah.
sad times. Um, yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, all the best to his family. Just yeah, praying and trusting for them, and let him rest in peace as well. And yeah, like just hopefully that the Springbok community can also just come around them as well. Um, let's end the podcast there. Yeah, obviously lots of rugby that we discussed here, lots to look forward to for this week as well. It's Rugby World Cup semi-final weekend. There's still obviously domestic rugby starting to come up. I think we're one more week, free weekend from the URC as well. Just adding that to the mix there. Curry Cup final as well. So yeah, I hope the Curry Cup final doesn't clash with the semi-final. I suspect it does. Just looking at the times quickly, I think there is a bit of a clash there. But yeah, there's a lot to look forward to. We'll definitely be here next week to wrap everything up. So yeah, please follow us on our social media channels, like, share, subscribe to this podcast, listen to us on Spotify, watch us on YouTube as well to get everything, and also on social media channels you can get every updates from what's happening in the rugby world. And yes, we will see you again next week when we wrap up the World Cup semi-finals. Bye bye, everyone.
bye bye.